All right, greetings, and we are now going to move on to episode number 9 of the Invisible Enemy series. And we're just going to move right along here. So go ahead and start this screen share. I do not have my glasses on, so hopefully you can bear with me here. And so we are now on page 69 of 158, is what it says here. So I can put this in focus. You can get a really good view of this. All right, so let's keep running through this. So Rand Paul tests positive. On April 13th, 2020, Rand Paul was on Fox and Friends to discuss his recovery and volunteering at a local hospital. In my case, Senator Paul explained to the host, I had an extraordinarily mild case. I had no symptoms, never had a headache, never had a body ache, never had a fever, never had a cough. I didn't really have any symptoms. In fact, I would have never gone to the hospital had I not, or not to the hospital. I would not have even gone to the doctor's office had I not known this was about what this was about and that I had been traveling so much. So it's a bizarre sort of situation that some people get very, very sick, even die from this. And some people get no symptoms. They've tested people in Iceland where they've tested a large body of the population of Iceland, and they found that about 50% of the people were positive had no symptoms. And so there's something about this illness that's not just the illness, but your immune response to it. And it may be some sort of genetic thing that some people are genetically predisposed to an overwhelming immune response that ends up making the patient very sick, with their lungs filling up with fluid. And then other people like myself get virtually no symptoms. So this was pretty interesting, I thought. And I really like how he kind of breaks that down. And that was one of the things some people are getting it. So on one hand, you're like, oh my goodness, well, that means we all could have it and we all could die and blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, it's like, it's pretty interesting how it affects each person differently based on our immune system, based on our health, really. So I found it very fascinating. All right, so you can catch that, hopefully, if it's still up, on realpolitics.com. And the title of the video, Rand Paul on testing positive for coronavirus. I didn't really have any symptoms. Pretty interesting. So instead of all the same fear tactics, scare-onomics, that's kind of a different view there. All right, halting the WHO. The day finally came when funding for the World Health Organization was halted while the Trump administration assessed their response to COVID-19. On April 14, 2020, President Trump made the announcement during the day's press briefing. Trump stated the WHO was, quote, severely mismanaging and covering up the COVID-19 event. With the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, President Trump continued, we have deep concerns about whether America's generosity has been out to the best use possible. The reality is that the WHO failed to adequately obtain and share information in a timely and transparent fashion. It could have been contained at its source. The WHO failed to investigate credible reports from sources in Wuhan that conflicted directly with the Chinese government's official accounts. Very, very big stuff there, my friends. I mean, this is where things kind of now it's getting personal with the World Health Organization and everything, and how Trump is doing something, and it's only that is going to prompt them to respond, to do something. It's going to prompt the WHO to actually take some type of action. I would certainly hope so, but it was pretty interesting. And it's a bold move for him to do that. I believe it's a bold move anyway. Someone who just kind of getting versed on this stuff and just trying to learn more about how all of this works with the World Health Organization and everything. So I've thought it was pretty interesting to hear that, for him to take that type of a stand. To me, was a really big deal and really showed and what he was saying about how the WHO, their response, that they have what they've been hiding, covering things up. It's pretty interesting. So it's pretty interesting. the WHO, I mean, he says the reality is that the WHO failed to adequately obtain and share information in a timely and transparent fashion. It could have been contained at the source. That's what he's saying here too. So that's pretty interesting. And that was from the White House. I don't know if these briefings are up, if this link is even good anymore, but that was his statement. So that was from April 14th, 2020. We're still on April 14th, 2020. And now at that same day, President Trump met with several patients who recovered from COVID-19 in the cabinet room of the White House. The full transcript is so powerful, I felt it necessary to include the entire conversation in this book. And it is a long conversation, but it is a really, really good one there. And because I don't know if people are going to have access to it later, if they're going to have access to the video later, I still have it on my backup channel. So hopefully people want to go and watch this, listen to it. It is a very powerful thing. I'll have to see if I have it on my Spotify channel too, my What is Truth podcast. I'll have to see if I have it there or not. But this is definitely something that if I don't have it there, I should definitely go back and try to add it, try to find this quote and find this speech. But lots of great speeches that Trump was giving back then. This roundtable that he did in the cabinet room, I thought was a very powerful one. Obviously, we're not going to go ahead and read through this whole thing because there is a lot to it, but it is very, very powerful, and it is a lot of pages there. But if you want to read it, you can read the full transcript at my website, whatistruth911.wordpress.com, and look for the article titled The Invisible Enemy COVID-19, and you will find what we're looking at right now, typos and all. You'll find it all in there. So if you do want to go and check that out, you definitely can, and I highly encourage it. I think the video is definitely better, but if you can't find the video, at least we have a full transcript of it. And it works pretty well for even for people who are hard of hearing. And it's nice to have the full transcript. It is long. There's no way we're going to read this, so you can see it's about 10, 20, maybe 20 pages or so. And so I'll kind of skip through that, and then we'll get back and see what happened next. And they do talk about hydroxy, 80Q, which I can never say correctly, but hydroxychloroquine. Let's just say it like that so I can butcher everything there. All right, so on the next day, on April 15, 2020 at 1:17 a.m., Bill Gates chimed in on Twitter about President Trump's big announcement of halting funding for the World Health Organization during a world. Well, let me read this. This is what Bill Gates says. Here's his quote from Twitter. Halting funding for the World Health Organization during a world health crisis is as dangerous as it sounds. Their work is slowing the spread of COVID-19, and if that work is stopped, no other organization can replace them. The world needs WHO now more than ever. So I think there's a typo. It says no, but I think obviously he meant now. So that's pretty interesting, coming from Bill Gates. Anyways, I'll try to keep a lot of my views and things like that out of this, and just let the quotes and everything speak for themselves. So their work is slowing the spread of COVID-19 while they're covering up things at the same time. Or what Trump is saying is that they're actually not reporting everything in a timely manner. They're not stopping at the source. So if what Trump is saying, if the WHO is not stopping it at the source, not helping to stop the problem at the source, and backing what China is saying, and not what the documents are saying, not what other records are showing, what the facts are saying, really. And at the same time, Bill Gates is saying that getting rid of the WHO, or what Trump is doing, is slowing down the WHO. So it's pretty interesting that either way, the WHO is reacting slow, but I mean, I don't know. It's a crazy world. This is a crazy thing here. Just looking back at this, sorry. All right, looking at the recorded numbers as of April 15, 2020, there were 2,026,958 reported cases of COVID-19. And I've been talking about this before I keep going. This is based on the website. I want to make sure I get this right. I think it's World O Meter. So that's what I was doing, is I was tracking this on their website this whole time to try to Yeah, Worldometer, worldometers.info. And that's where I was getting the numbers there. So over 2 million reported cases of COVID-19 with 494,418 recoveries and 129,100 deaths worldwide. Of those confirmed cases, 6,518 were closed. That's as of April 15th. Just for today is March 8th, 2022, and there are 449,064,155 coronavirus cases with 6,032,060 deaths and 383,361,536 recovered. So those are the numbers today compared to back in 2020, so about 2 years ago. Maybe a little less than 2 years. All right. Fact sheet released by the White House on April 15th explains the concerns over the World Health Organization, which I thought was very interesting, because it's one thing to just say, oh, the WHO, but this really gives us some numbers, some things that we can look at. So here's what the fact sheet says, summarize, I guess. Each year, United States taxpayers provide 400 million to 500 million in funding to the WHO each year, but the WHO has failed them. As a result, no more funding will be provided until its mismanagement, cover-ups, and failures can be investigated. President Trump then opened an investigation to review the World Health Organization and their failed response to the coronavirus. The WHO's response to the coronavirus outbreak has been filled with one misstep and cover-up after another, the fact sheet explained. Despite the fact that China provides us just a small fraction of the funding that the United States does. Let me read that again. Despite the fact that China provides just a small fraction of the funding that the United States does, the WHO has shown a dangerous bias towards the Chinese government. The WHO repeatedly parroted the Chinese government's claims that the coronavirus was not spreading between humans, despite warnings by doctors and health officials that it was. Taiwan informed the World Health Organization of human-to-human transmission of COVID-19 on December 31st, 2019, but the WHO kept it from the public. Very interesting when you think about what we're seeing now with between China and Taiwan. Was Taiwan a big main target? How early was this happening? At least December 31st, 2019. Coronavirus 19, not coronavirus 20. So the email from Taiwan's Central Epidemic Command Center to the WHO explained, news resources today indicate that at least 7 atypical pneumonia cases were reported in Wuhan, China. China's health authorities replied to the media that the cases were believed not SARS, sudden acute respiratory syndrome, the disease typically associated with the phrase atypical pneumonia. However, the samples are still under examination and cases have been isolated for treatment. I would greatly appreciate if you have relevant information to share with us. That's pretty interesting, where Taiwan is pretty much their Central Epidemic Command Center is trying to contact the WHO and tell them, news resources today indicate that at least 7 atypical pneumonia cases were reported in Wuhan, China. And China's health authorities replied to the media that the cases were believed not SARS. But then Taiwan Central Epidemic Command Center goes on to say, however, the samples are still under examination and cases have been isolated for treatment. So I would greatly appreciate if you have any relevant information to share with us. That's from the worldtribute.com. And the title of the article is Taiwan produces evidence it warned WHO of coronavirus in 2019, or in December of 2019. So the warnings, right? We always look for warnings. Where did this start? How early do we know everything? What do people do? So, by January, well, let me keep reading on here. According to the White House fact sheet, the WHO praised the Chinese government's response throughout January and claimed there was no human-to-human transmission, despite the facts that doctors in Wuhan were warning there was. So this is the big thing right here. This is why Trump defunded them, and until they could figure out what was going on. If the WHO is praising the Chinese government throughout January and claimed that there were no human-to-human transmission, even though that the doctors in Wuhan, the Wuhan doctors were claiming and warning that there was, it really makes sense why Trump did that. Maybe he even waited. Maybe he should have done it earlier. I don't know, but this just makes a lot of sense about why people have questions about the WHO's relationship with China, with the Chinese government specifically, not the Chinese people, but with the government. When we look at these things here, it's pretty interesting. And very, very telling. And of course, something that doesn't get talked about that much. And I really felt this would be very important for this book. So that's a big, big point that probably, if you were to put that on social media, it'd probably get wiped out. I don't know. I mean, I'm the more that we dive deeper into this, the more that we dive deeper into the stuff that is in this book here, the more I got to be careful about maybe being censored or being banned from YouTube as well. It's really ridiculous. So I have to be kind of careful there, hoping that my second strike will be gone. So then I won't, if I get another strike, that's pretty much it for this. And I'll still be on Rumble, and I may do another channel, bring back another channel, create a new channel here for these purposes, but or just create a whole COVID-19 channel. So we'll see. But I like YouTube because of the reach. Every smart TV has the ability to quickly add the app to add the YouTube app to it. So there's a better reach with YouTube. I love Rumble too. I just feel like the reach is not as good, and I obviously can't go live without paying and everything, which I get, but always be able to find my stuff on Rumble here. So if I'm gone one day, you know where to go, or to my other channels, and we can talk about all of that too. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. But with the information, I know at some point we're going to get into the information that I've specifically received strikes for. So we got to be, I'll have to try to be careful, a little more careful about that as we get there. But there are some of those trigger words, some of those keywords, and we'll see how all that goes. I'm not really worried about it, whatever. The information will get out there. We'll find ways. So if you're ever looking for the information here, but this is a big thing here that I'm not really hearing a lot about. The World Health Organization, and the human-to-human transmission that they were being warned about, that they really didn't do anything about there at this point. Later that changes or whatever, and maybe part of Trump's defunding really opened their eyes, I hope, to it. And I don't know what the end game was for that. A great book, by the way. If you have not read it, please go out and read it. The Real Dr. Fauci, The Real Anthony Fauci, it may be called. I'm on chapter 9 right now. I was talking with my friend online, and he's at the final chapter. This is an amazing book so far, and I have not even finished it. And I would definitely be purchasing a copy of it. And there's a lot of notes, a lot of things that I want to make, even some stuff that I probably will end up including in this book, a couple quotes, direct quotes that are in there. About certain things. I don't know if I want to get into it right now, but definitely reading that book has really helped me to keep going on this book, and hopefully one day. I got 3 projects in front of this one, unfortunately, and but I will get back into this. You can see I have 158 pages of a rough draft here, so I have a lot to kind of work with, and looking forward to more. But there's just some really good nuggets as we're going through this. I know we're in episode 9 now, but there's some really good nuggets here that I feel like I'm kind of glossing over in this book because we're just reading it. And so maybe we'll come back and just kind of pull out some of those major nuggets. So I know it may be a little tedious to go through this as we're going through it, but there's a lot of good information here, a lot of things that we can look at the week that we can look back at and learn from, and also see why we're in the situation that we're in, hopefully. All right, so let's keep going back to the human-to-human transmission. The World Health Organization claimed COVID-19 was not a public health emergency of international concern on January 22nd, 2020. This ties in directly with what Trump is doing at this point too. So this is what the fact sheet continues to say. The WHO put political correctness over life-saving measures by opposing travel restrictions, the fact sheet explained. The WHO made the disastrous decision to oppose travel restrictions from China and other countries, despite applauding travel restrictions within China itself, leading to further spread of the virus internationally. So they're pretty much, this fact sheet, is showing a lot of the things that the WHO did wrong. And, depending on what your news outlet is, you may not have heard this other side to it. This is definitely a side that I feel like we don't hear that much that we should. This is at page 112 in the roughed copy of my book here, the PDF that you can find on my website at whatistruth911.wordpress.com. It's one of the first articles that should pop right up with the same name as this series, and has all of the videos, has all the audio versions, should have any documents. I have a ton of documents I need to add to this, by the way, so hopefully I'll get to that soon. So let me read that one more time. The WHO made the disastrous decision to oppose travel restrictions from China and other countries, despite applauding travel restrictions within China itself. Huge deal right there, leading to further, and they're saying this led to further spread of the virus internationally. The WHO has shown it was not prepared to prevent, detect, and respond to a severe infectious disease crisis like this. The WHO lacks the structure to ensure accurate information and transparent data sharing from members, which makes it vulnerable to misinformation and political influence. Right there. That is the main thing right there. They have shown that they are not ready for this. And I can understand why they don't want to give them more. Why would you want to keep giving money to an organization that is not doing anything, that has actually contributed, whether they knew it or not, they've contributed to the spread of the coronavirus? How can they praise China for their travel ban and then criticize other countries for their travel ban? That does not make any sense. Does not make any sense at all to me. Okay, so continuing on, the United States seeks to refocus the WHO on fulfilling its core missions of preparedness, response, and stakeholder coordination. The United States is also calling for reforms to promote transparency and data sharing, hold member states accountable for abiding by the international health regulations, increase access to medicine, and counter China's outsized influence on the organization. So they're basically saying China is, the WHO and China are in bed together, and anything is going against China, then the WHO has a bias towards it. That's pretty much what they're saying here, right? So the influence. And so that was another White House briefing. I don't know if you'll be able to, I don't know if that link works or not either, but I really hope that I did take these make these into PDF. I'm not sure I did or not. I really hope that I did. We'll see. We'll find out soon enough. Okay, on April 17, 2020, the Wuhan Municipal Headquarters for COVID-19 Epidemic Prevention and Control issued an official notification for revised numbers of confirmed COVID-19 cases and fatalities in Wuhan. In Wuhan. These are Chinese numbers here, Chinese government numbers. According to the official notification, the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Wuhan as of the end of April 16th was revised up to 325 to 50,333. Wow, that is a huge jump. So they revised the number from 325 cases to over 50,000 cases, and the number of fatalities up by 1,290 to 3,869. Wow. The cases, that's substantial. But they're saying as of April 17, 2020, they had to revise the number. It was at 1,300 almost, and they revised it to a little bit under 4,000 cases. That's very interesting and very telling, by the way, especially if this is where it started. This is where they're saying it started, and those numbers, man, talk about playing with numbers there. I think that's pretty obvious that they are playing with some numbers. Okay, let's continue on. Almost done here, folks. According to the notification, the data discrepancies are due to the following reasons. So here's the reasoning why they had to adjust those numbers. First, the surging number of patients at the early stage of the epidemic overwhelmed medical resources and the admission capacity of medical institutions. Some patients died at home without having been treated in hospitals. Second, during the height of their treating efforts, hospitals were operating beyond their capacities and medical staff were preoccupied with saving and treating patients, resulting in belated, missed, and mistaken reporting. Third, due to a rapid increase of designated hospitals for treating COVID-19 patients, including those administered by ministries, Hubei Province, Wuhan City and its districts, those affiliated to companies, as well as private hospitals and makeshift hospitals, a few medical institutions were not linked to the epidemic information network and failed to report their data in time. Fourth, the registered information of some of the deceased patients was incomplete, and there were repetitions and mistakes in the reporting. And there is the link to that. So I don't know if that one is relevant or not. Obviously, people in the audio listening to this, the podcast version, the audio version on the What is Truth podcast may not be able to see this, but it's from a website, xinhuanet.com. And then there's a lot of other stuff after that. So maybe I'll add that link into the podcast version for people. And that's on page 113 of the book that I have, The Invisible Enemy, COVID-19. I think we're going to stop it right there. We'll come back in episode number 10 and talk about rebuilding the country as of April 17th with President Donald J. Trump. So with that being said, God bless you all. I want to thank you all for taking the time here to watch this, to listen to this. And I really do appreciate that. As we go back and take a trip to try to get, go back to the early days of COVID-19, of the invisible enemy, 2019 there, and how this has affected everybody. I don't care who you are, I don't care where you are, worldwide. I believe this has affected all of us here in many different ways. And it's very important to go back and understand what happened so we can understand why it happened. We can understand who caused it, who triggered this, what this is for, what the end game is, how people are using it to their benefit, how this could have been prevented, if it could have, and what we can do to make sure that it doesn't happen. I don't believe that masks are the answer. I don't believe the vaccine is the answer either. I think people are using those things to their own benefit, and there's a lot of things that we can do. Being a healthy person, obviously, I think is a big factor in it. Doesn't mean that just because you're healthy that it's not gonna get you, but because we even see healthy people who are and it's really once they get the vaccine, then they start having a lot more problems there. So be very careful about that, and trust in God, trust in Jesus Christ, and that's where I would start, and that's where I would end. So until next time, God bless you all, and talk to you then.